Hey, welcome back, podcast friends. And in this episode today, my wife, Theresa, and I are going to be talking about intermittent fasting. And this is just something that if you want to use it, there's a lot of really good benefits to doing intermittent fasting. But there's confusion sometimes on the difference because people hear the term intermittent fasting and they also hear the terms time restricted eating. Now, remember the whole purpose of this, and I'll talk a little bit about this. I actually did a whole podcast on episode 48 on what is the difference between intermittent fasting and time restricted eating. But just remember, the main thing is what these are they're talking about just eating in a narrow window, like a 6 to 8 hour window. And all the rest of the time, you don't eat anything. You just have water or unsweet coffee or unsweet tea. The reason for this is, as I've talked about in many of my podcasts, is the key to losing weight and the key to good health and the key to reversing type 2 diabetes and obesity is keeping your insulin levels low. That's the whole key. Because and I've talked about this too, when your insulin levels are high, it makes it to where your body can only store fat. It physiologically cannot burn fat when your insulin levels are high. But the opposite is also true. When your insulin levels are low, all you can do is burn your own fat for energy source. You can't store it. So obviously the key to, if you want to lose weight, if you want to feel better, if you want to have better health, you want to get rid of a lot of medications and type 2 diabetes, the key is keep your insulin levels low. And there's two main ways to do this. One is don't eat the kinds of foods that make your insulin levels rise. And those foods, fat does not affect your insulin levels at all. Protein just barely raises your insulin levels, not too bad. God made carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables, those it depends on which vegetables and fruits you're eating, but all of that actually gets broken down to glucose. So all that raises your insulin levels, some worse, some more than others. Like if you eat something that's real starchy, usually like tubers. These are the ones who grow. These are the vegetables that grow underneath the ground. So like potatoes, carrots, radishes, parsnips, sweet potatoes, all those, they're very condensed. They have a lot of starch in them. And starch is just a very, very complex carbohydrate. So it all gets broken down into glucose. So obviously, since glucose is what makes your insulin levels go up, and the key to good health and weight loss is to keep your insulin levels down, then those would be the kinds of fruits and vegetables that you're going to want to kind of stay away from. But if you want to have a little bit, that's fine, but kind of stick more to your green leafy vegetables. Those don't raise your insulin levels quite as much, but by far stay totally away from man-made ultra processed food, which is all the types of food that you get in the center aisle of a grocery store. And sadly to say, when we go shopping, a lot of this is what we see in people's carts. They push these carts around and they just put all this nutrient void ultra processed carbohydrates with all these chemicals that cause inflammation, and their whole cart is full of nothing but that. And then they complain about how their grocery bill is so high. So if you quit buying the man-made food and just stick to buying God-made food, it's not going to be expensive and it's going to taste a lot better and it's going to keep you feeling full for a lot longer period of time, which also is going to keep your insulin levels low. So that was just a quick description of what it is. And as far as, well, I'm sorry, I'm not letting my wife talk at all. Is there anything you want to say? The only other thing, the difference between intermittent fasting and time restricted eating is just that in general, when somebody says something about intermittent fasting, they know they're going to be eating in a small window, like a 6 to 8 hour window. But when they do this, they eat all the way through that window. So for that whole 6 to 8 hours, they keep snacking on things. And really, the best way to do this is eat a really good meal at the beginning of your 6 to 8 hour window, and then don't eat anything else until the end of your 6 to 8 hour window and eat again. That way, you're keeping your insulin levels low all the way between those two times also. And then after you eat that last meal, now you're going to wait another 16 to 18 hours before you eat again. But don't get freaked out about that, because everybody thinks, oh my gosh, there's no way I could go that long because I'm going to get hypoglycemic. My blood sugar is going to go down and I'm going to seize and whatever else everybody thinks. That is not true. Unless you're taking diabetic medications, that's going to make your glucose go down, and you're also doing the intermittent fasting and eating healthy. That's when you have to worry about having your blood glucose go down too low, because that's the way type 2 or that's the way diabetic medications work. They work on the symptom of lowering your blood glucose, but they actually make the underlying cause worse because they work by stimulating your pancreas to produce more insulin. So be careful if you're taking diabetic medications and you decide to start eating healthy, because you will start decreasing the medications that you're on. So that's the main difference. Intermittent fasting, that's when you eat all the way between the 6 and within that 6 to 8 hour windows. Time restricted eating pretty much just means you're going to have one meal at the beginning of the window and one meal at the end of the window. And this is going to be a lot easier depending on the type of food that you eat. And we'll go into that in just a little bit. So right now, tell them how they can start doing this.
So, you need to consider your personality type. So if you're the kind of person that wants to go, I'm just totally going to only eat in a 6 hour window, and you're just going to power through, that's perfectly fine. But for most people, and I'm one of these people, is to start slow. So let's say you get up and you eat breakfast before you go to work or whatever. Let's say it's 8 a.m. Well, then this week, why don't you push that back to 9 a.m.? That's all you're going to do is you're just going to wait. Just wait an hour. And then when you start getting comfortable with that, which really I would think would be within a week, even just a couple of days, your body just really adjusts quickly. So every day every few days, you're going to push back an hour until you can wait until lunch and make that your first meal around 11, 12, 1. I mean, you can get to a point where you can just keep pushing it back and pushing it back. But at the beginning, I think that's the easiest way. It's just an hour. There's no hurry to do this because that's one of the things we want to talk about, being fasting versus starving. You do not want to be starving. It's fine to be hungry, but just don't be starving. So if you're hungry, eat.
And again, the biggest difference with that, right? When someone is starving, you're talking about like a third world country. There are no nutrients around. There is no food they can't eat. That's starving. Fasting, that's your choice. There is nutrients around. There's food around. You're just choosing not to eat them. So that's a big difference between this. So you don't, just like Theresa said, if you try this, and we'll give you we're going to give you some tips on how you can do this. But if you've tried all our tips and you're just starving to death, you just can't go without it, then eat. It's not that big a deal. Go ahead and eat and then try to do it the next day. It's not that big a deal. However, it is a big deal for you to keep your insulin levels low. So if you can master this, I guarantee you're going to see a huge change in your weight pretty quick.
And all the other benefits.
Yeah, and all the other benefits. And that's what we'll talk about.
Yeah, even if you don't need to lose weight, you can still do intermittent fasting.
So just pick the times that you think would be good as far as the time for your early meal and your last meal. And just say whatever time you eat your early meal, now calculate 8 hours after that, and that should be when you have your last meal. So you may eat like at 8 o'clock in the morning, but then that's going to mean 4 o'clock in the evening will be your last meal. Some people can do that. Some people can't. You go from 9 in the morning to 5, or from 10 in the morning to 6. So just whatever works best with your schedule, pick that as your 8 hour time period. But the key, the biggest key to this is when you do eat, still stay with the types of food that keep your insulin levels low, because it just so happens the same types of food that keeps your insulin levels low is also the exact same kind of foods that keep you feeling full for a lot longer. And I've talked about this some of my other podcasts. But when you eat protein and when you eat fat, so just say a good meaty ribeye or whatever, hamburger, when you eat these, not only do they stay in your stomach for a lot longer than vegetables do. So when you eat a good steak, say, that's going to stay in your stomach anywhere usually from like 2 to 4 hours, to where when you just eat like a salad or some kind of a vegetable, a plant food, those only stay in your stomach for about 30 minutes to an hour. But what's key is when you eat those carbohydrates, when you eat that plant-based food, As soon as it comes out of your stomach, like 30 to 60 minutes after you ate it, it goes in the small intestine and goes straight to the liver, gets turned into glucose or takes the glucose and starts putting it through your body. So you get hungry very very quickly. It doesn't keep you feeling full very long at all. When you eat protein and fat, now that instead of 30 to 60 minutes, protein fat stays in the stomach for 2 to 4 hours. Then when it gets down into the intestines, as it goes all the way down through your small intestines and including the upper large intestine, there are hormones that protein and fat stimulate called cholecystokinin and peptide YY. But these get stimulated all the way through as this meat is going all the way through your intestines, constantly getting broken down. And what cholecystokinin and peptide YY do is when you eat those, the amino acids in the protein and the fatty acids in the fat stimulate those. Peptide YY and cholecystokinin go up to the medial hypothalamus in the brain and tell your brain, I'm not hungry, quit eating. So when you eat a meal that has a lot of protein and a lot of fat, it stays in the stomach for way, way longer than plant-based foods do. It also stays in the intestines for way, way longer than plants do. And it stimulates hormones that cause your brain to say, I'm not hungry. Carbohydrates do not do that. Carbohydrates do the exact opposite. When you eat a bunch of glucose, it actually makes you more hungry. So that's going to be the key to intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating, however you want to do it, is eat the kinds of foods that are going to keep you feeling full. And that's going to make this go a lot easier for you guys.
Right. And just like for breakfast, you don't have to eat a ribeye or a hamburger patty, but you could eat eggs and bacon or eggs and sausage or
Yes.
just eggs and avocado. So just that's just protein and fat, and then you'll stay full longer. And so that'll just help with getting rid of snacking, just like he was saying.
Yeah. And the deal with eating like eggs and meat together, those have all the nutrients that you need. One of the other things that makes you hungry, there are several things when you become obese. There's a lot of things that normally your body has these little mechanisms that keep you feeling full. But when you become obese, you kind of start negating a lot of those. You make those where those don't work very well. And I'm not going to go into that because that's a whole nother podcast. But the main thing is why you get hungry in the first place is because your body is devoid of nutrients. Some of its nutrients are low, and it's trying to tell you to eat because that's how it gets the nutrients in it. So the nutrients we're talking about, the 5 biggest things that you have to have, your body has to have. And if you give them these 5 things, as you see with the Olympics and everything else, if you give your body these 5 things, it is amazing what your body can do. But those 5 things that your body has to have, your body doesn't make them. You have to get it from the food you eat. It needs protein for the amino acids. It needs fat and cholesterol for the fatty acids. It needs vitamins. It needs minerals, and it needs water. When you give your body all those, it's going to be having all the nutrients it needs. And when it has all the nutrients it needs, it's not going to try to make you hungry because it's already got what it wants. So that's what's called nutrient-dense foods. And that's why we talk about meat, hamburgers, steaks, chicken, fish, all that. When you eat those meats, you get all that. It's a good protein source, and it's animal protein. So you're getting all the amino acids that animals need. And it's going to be, so you're getting the protein, you're getting the fat, and all that meat has vitamins and minerals. So these are called nutrient dense. You can get all the nutrients that you need in a small meal versus if you're eating something like, carbs, all plant-based food. Remember, carbohydrates, all that means is plant-based food. So anything made from any kind of plant, that's nuts, seeds, grains, fruits, vegetables. And don't even talk about man-made food. That's not food at all. That's just nothing but sugar. All man-made foods, ultra-processed carbs, sugar and high fructose corn syrup, and vegetable and seed oils. And those things are killing all of us. So please stay away from all the things in box, bottle, bag, and can. But if you can stick to giving your body all the nutrients it needs, this is very, very much going to help you with your health, help you with your weight, help you with your energy, and help you with your weight loss and hopefully getting off medications and reversing type 2 diabetes. So stick to the nutrient-dense foods, and that's going to help you get through these little windows of 6 to 8 hours or the 16 to 18 hours when you're not going to be able to eat.
Yeah. So, and if you do find yourself getting hungry, what happens is you get hungry, but you're not hungry for very long. I mean, maybe you don't even remember what it feels like to be hungry. Like your stomach will growl. And it's like, just maybe get distracted. Go do something really quickly. Drink a big glass of water, get distracted, do something, and then see how you feel. Because a lot of times that hungry feeling, it's gone in like 10 or 15. I mean, I don't even know if it's even that long. I mean, I know I get it, but it's like, just go drink some water and go do something, and it passes and you're perfectly fine. You could also do black coffee, depending on how long you can handle caffeine in the day.
No,
You could
no, unsweetened.
and then
Black coffee. That's
yeah.
true.
Okay. And then unsweetened tea, sparkling waters. I think that's,
Those are pretty much it. Just stay away from anything that has any kind of sweeteners in it. No sugar, no high fructose corn syrup, no artificial sweeteners. Try to stay away from that stuff and stick to just like you said, the unsweet coffee, unsweet tea, or water is going to be the best things to do. You will need your electrolytes. So when you do this, make sure that you're getting electrolytes. And in your water, you may want to put a teaspoon of salt, or you might want to put some electrolytes. There's some good electrolytes out there, like Relight.
Yeah, that's Relyte by Redmond, and then Element, LMNT. And those are the two that we use whenever we want to have, because Steve's explained it before, but whenever you drop the carbs, you need to replace your electrolytes.
Right. That's going to be real important for you to do.
Right. So, and then it also, when you put something like that in your water, it tastes good. You don't have to get the flavor. They do have unflavored, but it tastes good. There is a sweetener in those that has a little bit of stevia, and it makes you not hungry anymore.
And when we talk about hydration, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. The way you should be drinking this, remember, most people all through the day, drink diuretics. They drink the types of food or types of beverages that cause them to pee more than what they're actually drinking in. So anything that has caffeine in it will do that. Anything that has sugar in it will do that. And then alcohol. And that's pretty much what people do all through the day. If they're going to have coffee or tea in the morning, they usually put sugar in that, or they have some kind of horrible beverage like fruit juice or chocolate milk or actual soda pop. All that is horrible, just nothing but sugar. That makes you pee more. And then you go through the day, you keep drinking all that kind of stuff. And then at night you get home and maybe you start having, an alcoholic beverage or something. But people aren't drinking the amount of water they need. The amount of water that you need just to keep from getting dehydrated is take your ideal body weight. This doesn't mean your actual body weight. So say you weigh 230 pounds, you're supposed to weigh 180 pounds. So take the 180 pounds, divide that by 2, and that's the number of ounces that you should be drinking every single day. So let's say I weigh 180. So half that's 90. So that means I need to be drinking about 90 ounces of water every single day. And an easy way to figure this out, you don't have to sit there and remember your ounces, but get you a really good, either a metal or stainless steel water bottle or a glass water bottle. Try stay away from plastics. But if you can do that and just know how many ounces that bottle has, like I have a bottle that's 30 ounces. So I know that I need to be, if I'm 180 and half that is 90, I need 3 of these 30-ounce bottles every single day. And that's just to stay hydrated. Then if I do anything else, if I'm working out in the yard, sweating, working out, anything like that, then I'll actually have a 4th bottle also just to replenish the losses from that. So please don't forget how important your water is. Please don't forget how horrible sugar-sweetened beverages are. And that if you go with one of those while you're trying to do intermittent fasting, it's going to knock you off very quickly, because those things, actually, when you drink them, they make you way, way more hungry than you ever were, which is the other thing. Being hungry, a lot of times, just like Theresa was saying, there's different things you can do, because most people, or a lot of people, they don't have to wait till they're hungry to eat. They may be hungry because of emotional. They may be upset about something. They may be excited about something. They may be celebrating something, getting together, a social aspect, habit. You're just used to always eating every 2-3 hours. So when 2-3 hours comes around, just by habit, you start to get hungry. So those are the things that you're wanting to try to stop the habit of eating every 2 to 3 hours. And that's going to be easiest, like I just said, if you stick with when you do eat nutrient dense foods that give your body all the nutrients, and it actually keeps you feeling full for a lot longer because of the hormones that gets released. So eat your protein, eat your fat, avoid your carbs. And during the time when you're not intermittent fasting, that's when you just stick to these types of beverages. So what are some other things that you can do to
Well,
help?
I've done this a couple of times, but if you can put like a half a teaspoon of salt on your tongue, your body, because a lot of times you're craving sugar because so many people are addicted, but your body, it's just this sensation in your mouth and it reacts the same way, kind of like with sugar, except for you're not going to raise your insulin, but it's just salt and that can satisfy your cravings. And I heard Dr. Annette Bosworth talking about you can get, I think, are they rock salts or salt rocks or something? And you
Yeah,
can,
I know what
they're
that is.
little rocks of salt and you can just put one of those in your mouth, which we've never done that.
Huh.
But and then you can just suck on that and that can pass, making you, if you're feeling hungry, that can pass the time. So
Right.
we've heard of that and not really done it before, but that's an option.
Yeah.
I was interested. Thought it was interesting.
Yeah, we haven't tried that. The distraction, Teresa had already talked about distracting yourself. That's really one of the better ways you can do that, because you just, a lot of people, they just like go over to a refrigerator and just open up the door and look at it just out of habit. It's like, I don't even know why I'm here. I just open up the door. So if you can distract yourself, get doing something else, then that's just going to take your mind off of it. And you'll be amazed at how all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's right. I forgot I was hungry. I'm not hungry anymore.
Right.
So you don't get, people think, oh man, if I go that long without eating, I'm not only am I going to be hungry, but then I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to become starving, and then I'm going to wait longer. And now I just want to devour everything. It doesn't work that way. Your hunger doesn't work that way. It's going to give you that little signal saying that you're hungry, that your body needs nutrients, and then it's going to back off and see what you do to it. So again, remember, your body is hungry because it's asked for nutrients. So make sure you give it the proper nutrients that I've already said a lot about.
Yeah. And also the very last thing, which we've already said, if you just feel like you are starving, then eat.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
And then and be consistent. I mean, make sure that you do this. Really try to do this every day. I mean, this is not a diet. This is not a diet by any means. This is just a good way to eat, a good way to keep your insulin levels low. And this is how a lot of people have probably ate back when God first made us. There may be 2-3 days that you go without eating. So that's why you want to make sure to give your body all the nutrients that it needs. And like we said, be consistent. Try to do this every day, and if you've tried all the distraction and tried drinking, unsweet coffee or unsweet tea and water, and that's not helping, if nothing helps and you're just starving, eat,
Or even try 3 times a day, no snacks, which is a good way to start also. So it just depends on what sounds more appealing, or if you've tried a few things. There's just so many variations you can do, but just really, trying to take out that snacking. So if you can go 4 to 5 hours and not eat, and then you can do some of these other steps that we've talked about.
And then you'll find when you do this, I mean, at first you may have 3 meals a day, but you're still eating all of them in a narrow window, whatever window you want to pick. And remember, when we say you're not going to be eating anything for 16 to 18 hours, your sleep is included in that. So say you go to bed at 10 o'clock. Okay. So you go to bed at 10, you sleep till say 6, that's 8 hours. So you're already 8 hours into it. So you just need another 8 hours. So if you can put your last meal the night before off about 4 hours, so you don't eat anything 4 hours before you go to sleep. And then when you wake up, you wait another 4 hours there, you're already done. So if you eat at 6, go to bed at 10, and you don't eat anything in between there. Okay. Don't eat anything. And then you sleep for 8 hours, and then you push off your next meal. You say you push that off until 6 o'clock. You've already done it. So you've gone all the way from 10 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night. That's when you eat. So is that
right?
I think I switched up between the time you're eating and the time you're not. You get the gist. Your sleep time is included in that 16 to 18 hours that you're going to be going without eat. So just make sure you remember that. So you're not trying to trudge through this that way either. And those that your window, you try to keep the same window, every day. That's going to make it best. Because if you say, well, I'm going to not eat for 6 to 8 hours this morning, but now tomorrow I'm not going to eat for 6 to 8 hours in the evening, and yada yada, and you're switching all around. Try to make it as consistent as possible so your body is getting the nutrients it needs, and you're not going to start trying to overlap your windows.
Because then you can definitely, I would think mentally that would mess with you.
Right.
So now when do I get to eat? Oh my gosh, today I'm not waiting, or I'm having to wait until much later. So don't do that.
Right.
There's no reason.
And
be active.
Yes.
So walk. It's summer right now, so you can go walking and swimming. Definitely do yoga. So these are just, it's not like you're physically exerting yourself, to do. I mean, you can with some of these things, but it's just take it easy. Because one thing, whenever you start doing these things, especially if you include strength training, you're going to get hungry. It does make you hungrier because you're being more active. So just keep that in mind. Because especially if you're obese, we really think you should be just walking, taking it easy, but you need to be moving. You can't just be sitting all the time.
Everybody.
Like we do.
Yeah. Everybody needs to be moving. And I did a whole podcast on that one also, but it's mainly when you move, you've got a thing called lymphatic fluid, and your lymphatic fluid, that's the only way it moves. And this is what clears your body out of all its impurities. And again, I've talked about this in another podcast, but it doesn't have a heart to pump it like your blood vessels do. And so the only way you can pump that lymphatic fluid is by moving, by walking. And that's going to help get a lot of that crud out of your body. If you tend to just eat and sit, lay down at home, you sit at a desk, you sit at the computer, you sit in front of a television, you're just sitting all the time, all the stuff that your body has in it and the lymphatic fluid that it's trying to get out, you're not allowing it because you're not allowing it to pump. So all these toxins build up inside of you. And this also has a lot to do with a lot of inflammation and a lot of diseases people have because they just don't move their bodies. So that's going to be a very good thing to do. Move your body. And this can also help as far as the distraction technique if you think you're hungry.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And definitely walking after you eat, which I think we've talked about before. So,
right.
That's even if it's just a 15, it's not like, oh, I got to go walk for an hour. No, 15, 20 minutes and you're good. Walk out 10 and then come back another 10 minutes. So that's it.
Yep.
That's how easy that is. So you want to talk about the benefits?
Yeah. Yeah. So now why fast? What are the benefits of fasting? Okay. And there are lots, and they're discovering more and more all the time. But basically, because you keep your insulin levels low, one of the big benefits of fasting is it's definitely increases your ability to lose weight. And it's not just losing weight, because a lot of people, like people who are taking Ozempic and everything, kind of find out a lot of the weight that they're losing is muscle weight. They're actually eating their own muscle because they aren't giving themselves any protein. All they're doing is jabbing them with a drug. So when you eat protein and fat, you're giving your body all the protein so you don't get muscle wasting. So they found that when you do intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, the weight loss that you lose is from fat, because again, when your insulin levels are low, that causes you to burn your own fat for its energy source. So this is the way you want to do it. You don't want to lose weight by losing muscle mass. You want to lose it by losing all the excess fat that you have on board. So that's one big benefit of intermittent fasting is fat loss without muscle loss.
Go ahead. Yeah, the improved metabolic health.
Yeah, and that's what it said. Metabolic health. Metabolic health basically means nutrients that your body uses back and forth. And just like metabolic flexibility, this is your body's ability to switch back and forth between using fat for your energy source or using glucose for your energy source. Most people, since our dietary guidelines came out in 1977, most people eat nothing but carbohydrates all the time, very little protein. And so they're using their glucose for their energy source. They can't use their fat because when you use glucose, it keeps your insulin levels high and only forces you to store your fat. So that's why intermittent fasting improves metabolic health, because it gets your insulin levels low. You burn your own fat for your energy source. And then if you have a stress, some kind of fight or flight system come up, that's when you can hurry up. You can use your glucose for your energy source, and your body knows how to do this. Then your glucose levels will come back down. insulin levels come back down, and you start using your fat for its energy source again. So it's your body can very easily go back and forth between fat burning and glucose burning as long as you keep your insulin levels low, which is the key to intermittent fasting. Anything else?
No, yeah, go on to the
See,
next one.
it also they've shown that this enhances brain function also, because when you eat nothing but carbohydrates all the time, glucose actually is not good for the brain, and it makes a lot of free radicals. It's basically hard on the body also. But when you keep your insulin levels low, you keep your glucose levels low, your brain starts functioning much, much better because it's functioning on the cholesterol that your body makes. Remember, every single cell in your body makes cholesterol, every single cell. And your brain uses 20 to 25% of all the cholesterol your total body makes. It runs so much cleaner on cholesterol than it does and fat than it does on glucose. So that's another thing people notice, that once they start feeding their body what it needs, they tend to feel a lot clearer in their head because they don't have all this glucose free radicals floating around there causing problems. And because of all this, you actually do become healthier. When you keep your insulin levels low, that does so many things, because high insulin levels tears up your blood vessels. High glucose levels tear up your blood vessels. Inflammation from all the chemicals in man-made food and everything, they tear up your blood vessels. So if you stop eating man-made food, you stop eating carbohydrates, and you keep your insulin levels low, all those other reasons come back to be a lot better, and it's going to increase your longevity. You're going to live longer, and you're going to have a much better quality of life because you just feel better.
Yes. Yeah. You're going to live longer. You just said reduce inflammation.
Yeah, you'll reduce your inflammation. And that's mainly because you're not going to be eating all the chemical laden, nutrient void stuff that man is telling you to make or telling you to eat. And all these commercials they put on the commercials, all the food commercials, it's all just nothing but toxic sludge. And if you can keep out of that, you're going to keep a lot of the inflammation out of your body.
Right. And then, one thing I think you said at the beginning was to use it as a tool. It's not a diet, but to use it as a tool. And so you may do this for a few months and then maybe you aren't seeing results. I guess I'm thinking about just the weight loss results whenever you say that. But, to use it, like, even if you just did one day a week, where you really maybe wanted to eat 1 meal a day, which we haven't even discussed 1 meal a day, which is advanced.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more advanced. Steve does a lot of 1 meal a day, but then he doesn't get enough protein in because of working out. So then he has to eat at least 2 meals. But you definitely wait a long time.
Oh, yeah.
You wait a very long time before you eat. He doesn't eat until, well, it kind of depends. Like sometimes 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. And then when he eats the extra meal, then he tries to at work. Or, you try
maybe at work.
I don't really know what you do. But, so it's not like, oh, I've got to eat this way for the rest of our life. We've been doing this for years.
Right.
And so we are perfectly happy with it. But I will tell you, I've had times where I'll get up and it's like, I'm hungry and it's 9 a.m. I eat. So that's where I'm ready to, I'll just eat. It's not like this big, it's like, oh, I really don't want to eat until noon. Nope, it's okay. I'm eating at 9 because I'm hungry.
Another positive effect that you get with intermittent fasting is when you go that long without eating, you find you have a lot more time on your hands to do other things. You're not constantly planning on where you're going to eat or just going to get something to eat. You're not worried. Like even when we go on vacation, we can drive. Since we do intermittent fasting, we can drive from here to West Virginia, which we just did a few weeks ago, and never had to eat anything the whole way because we weren't hungry. So you drive for 8, 9, 10 hours, and it makes it a lot quicker because we don't have to say, okay, where do you want to stop to eat? Where do you want to stop to eat? Or all through your day, you're always thinking about what's my next meal? What's my next meal? You'll find it so much more freeing to your brain and to your time when you're not eating all the time. You have a very specific time they eat, and you have all the rest of the time that you can do more fun things that you really would like to do. So that's just another positive benefit of intermittent fasting or time restricted eating.
And then the big thing we haven't even talked about is autophagy, if anybody's heard of it, but we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm going to do a whole podcast on autophagy coming up. But autophagy is used, and it's just autophagy. If you've never heard of it, it's AUTOPHAGY. So auto meaning self, and phage means to eat. So this is basically when your body is eating itself. It recycles all the nutrients that it takes to do all the functions your body takes.
Mhm.
Anyway, we won't go into that, but autophagy is another thing that has a lot of really, really good health benefits. And this is what you get, again, by keeping your insulin levels low for long periods of time, which is what you get when you do intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. So we'll talk about autophagy in another episode.
Yeah, but I think we've talked long enough about fasting.
Yep. we've rambled. We hope you understand the importance of it, and do give it a try. Do give it a try. You may be surprised, and this will definitely help you with your weight loss goals and your quality of life goals. So for now, as always, thank you so much again for listening. Have a great week, and remember to always make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life.